Hi friends, this is Bilal Haider and this is the 18th video lecture about C# programming, and in this video we are going to talk about components. Okay, we'll talk about what are components and what difference does they make to a game object. Okay, so before we go and actually talk about components, we must learn what is a game object. Okay, so we already discussed that everything you see in your game in Unity is a game object. This is a game ob this is a game object which is called empty game object, and you can create it by going to game object and create empty. Okay, and when you will create a game object and when you will select it, you will see that it will have a transform component with it, and beside besides that it has nothing else. Okay, so this transform is a component which makes um, it exist in the 3D space. Okay, but because this is an empty game object, it you can consider it like a ghost, okay, which is there but you can't see it. And yeah, okay, so and this main camera is also a game object, but what you will see here is that there is a transform component attached to it, and also there is a camera component which is attached to it. Okay, so this camera component actually makes this game object a camera. Okay, so if I have this empty game object and I add um, a camera component to it, then this empty game object will become a camera. Okay, so okay, so this is also game object, and what makes it a camera is this component which is called camera. Okay, so every single game object is nothing but um, you can say that we have an empty game object, and if we attach certain components to it, it will become that kind of thing. Okay, like here you can see it is a directional light. It is also game object, but here you have a transform component attached to it, and here you have a light component attached to it. So you create an empty game object and you attach a light component to it, it will become a light. Okay, we can, if we'll disable this light, everything will, all the lights will be gone, just like that. Okay, and when we'll code and when we'll interact with these components via code, you will see um, how much interesting results we can get with these. Like with single click of a button, here we are turning off, on and off the lights. And let's say if we create a button on the screen and write a code behind it that whenever we click that button, it should turn the light off, and whenever we click it again, it should turn the light on. So this thing we can do by writing a code, but we'll do that in later videos. But for now, let's move on to cube, and let's see what this cube has. Okay, so the same transform component um, which determines its position, its rotation, and its scale. And this cube mesh filter is actually um, the mesh of this game object. Like this thing defines it that it is a cube and not a sphere. Okay, this cube mesh defines it that it is a cube and it is not a sphere. Okay, we'll talk about colliders later on, and this mesh renderer is actually um, the component which renders this cube and you're able to see it. Okay, so this mesh renderer is that component which makes it visible to your eye. Okay, so that's how simple these components are. So when we don't know something, we think that it's very complex and we won't be able to understand it. But when we start investigating them and when we start finding information about them, we start knowing them, and we start thinking that it's not very difficult to grab these concepts. Okay, let's move on to sphere and see what it has. It has the same transform. It has a sphere mesh filter which makes it a sphere, and it has a sphere collider. We'll talk about it later on. We'll make a separate video for colliders actually. And this mesh renderer is the component which makes it visible to your eye. Okay, and same with cylinder and also with the plane. Okay, so these are the basic in game objects. There are couple of more also, like we can add a script is also a component, and we have canvas, we have mesh text, we have mesh render, and under effects we have several components. Under physics we have several components. Under physics 2D we have several components, and so on. Okay, when we'll be creating some games for us, we'll use these components in our games. Okay, and we'll try to we'll be actually interacting with those components, and sometimes we'll just hide them, like let's take this cube and make it inactive or active, or we can simply don't render it, um, and make it by turning this mesh render off. What it means that this box is still there in your scene, but your user cannot see it. So it can be something, a secret place where if your user goes, you teleport your user to some other place. Okay, so let's say we put this box here, and it will not be visible to our user. Okay, so when a user is playing, he's not aware of an invisible box that exists there. So if he's moving its character and it reaches that point, and we suddenly teleport it to some other place, it will be a fun stuff for him, for the user. So this can be one possibility of what we can do with these mesh renderers. Okay, so I think this was all about this video part, and the purpose of this video was to introduce you with components, and you start investigating about them by yourself also. Okay, So in the next video part, we'll write some code and we'll interact um, with with components. Okay, let's see what we can do with them. But for now, see you next time and have fun. Take care. Bye bye.